Hello, I'm going to talk about plaso and log to timeline. Okay, it all comes back to artifacts. There are just so many of them, it's impossible to remember them all. But plaso can fix it. It can process almost all known artifacts and it can extract the relevant times and present them in a timeline, which means you can see, well, I'm not exactly sure what this artifact is, but it happened then and you can get some kind of clue about it. So it can help you learn about artifacts. And you can point out which ones are relevant. It is a bit clunky to use, but it's definitely worth it. It can accept most input types. If you want to input information, you can, for example, use standard EWF files, but it will also take just a standard file. It can take a directory, a zip file, a disk. It will process an entire disk, or as I said, EWF files. Now these can take a long time to process. It's going to the disk and it's applying parsers to any kind of items that it finds. So often you would leave it working for a while and you would come back. Now the output of plaso can be a CSV file. Okay, so comma separated values. It means you can view it in a spreadsheet, so you get all this data in a spreadsheet. But to be honest, that's fairly clunky. You can use Kibana and Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is a very powerful search tool. Kibana is a nice front end to allow you to display things and search. And if you do that, you will be able to use it more powerfully. First, though, I want to show you some of this output to give you some background about the tool. Just a reminder, plaso is the name of the tool. Log to timeline is the name of the main command, and in fact beforehand it was called log to timeline, the entire tool. So it's a little bit confusing. There's a psteal.py, which is a sort of newer simplified version of the command, which does the timeline and psort in one step. So typically log to timeline generates an intermediate storage file, and then another program, psort, will transform the storage file into a timeline, which will be CSV or a database. And then, as I said, viewed using a spreadsheet or a web interface. On Ubuntu, you can do a search, install plaso Ubuntu, and you'll come up with these 3 lines. This can do everything. It installs plaso. Unfortunately, installing Elasticsearch and Kibana is not quite so easy, but you can start off plaso relatively easy. So let's say you have a single file. You just run this program psteal.py. You specify the source, whatever file. So let's say you're looking at a link file. You specify the output format. Okay, in this case, let's say you want, this stands for log to timeline CSV. So it's a comma separated value file, and it's a standard log to timeline format. This is the one that can be a little bit hard to read. And then the actual file that you're putting it into. Okay, so this just explains that again. It generates lots of output, but a single link file generates 6 lines of output. So that's 3 times contained within the link file, and 3 times because all files contain times. There is your last modified time, access time, the time you were born, and the change time. 2 of those might be the same. That's for a link file. A registry file can generate thousands of entries. For example, Donald's NTuser, that file generated 1,600 entries. Okay, so it goes to the registry file and it finds all relevant dates. It sees the time associated with it. So if you know a time, you can see what happens at that time. Okay, so there's a little test directory, so I'm just going to run that. Let's see, I need to go to here, and right, and what do I want to do? I need to get rid of it. I somehow came back to here. Okay, so I want, there's a problem with this, it's shutting these things down. Okay, I see, this has gone full screen. Right, okay, so here's my, I have plaso in here, and I have a test directory in here with various items. So this is just a text file. So if I actually what I'll do is, if I open this in a terminal, I can go, I'll just go down one directory and then I'll type psteel, psteel. Okay, I can actually, that wasn't psteel. Okay, so there, for example, I'm specifying the source, and I actually happen to have a link file there. I can specify the type, and as I said, I'm just going to change that to a CSV file and change the output format to CSV. Okay, so it's going to generate a link file for me. Okay, so let's click on that. And it runs and it says there's actually an error because this already exists. So let's delete this one. And run it again. Now, what happened there? No such device. Oh yeah, I actually have to mount that. In fact, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this in. So test /05, I think. So there's various link files in here. Let's go to users and download. Let's go for, I'm not sure which one will be faster. Microsoft, and let's go for Windows. There should be oh yeah, so recent, so there should be, okay, so there's, for example, duck.link. Let's try that one. Okay, so I'm just going to examine this one file. Now this would be very unusual and definitely overkill, especially when you see what you get out of it. The big advantage of Plaso is when you combine all these things together. So okay, so I run that and it, oh yeah, this still exists because of the previous error. Okay, and let's do that again. Okay, and here's what it usually does. It prints a screen like this, tells you what it's doing, and it generates a storage file. This is actually a temporary file, but the interesting thing is going to be the output. So I'll just type that maybe, and it would be out /05, I think, and it's link oh yeah, I might call it download.csv. Okay, now it's actually, if you do a pipe that into WC, you'll see that's only 7 lines. Okay, so it's got 7 lines, and yet it looks like gibberish. That's because each line has lots and lots of characters. I'll just type that into less minus s, allows me to see those lines a little bit more easily. So there are the lines, and it has this sort of information. It's the date, the time zone. MACB stands for the times, modify, access, change, and birth. So birth is when the file was created. M is for modify, access is for that, and C is if some of the metadata changed. Then you get the source type. Okay, the actual type, the user, the host. These are often empty. In fact, it looks like it's those two there. A short version of the message, I think, and then a description, version, file name, inode, notes, format, extra. Okay, not all of these are filled in. So just have a quick look here. You have a time. This is the 22nd of January. Unfortunately, it's the American style time. I think you can change that, but it doesn't usually matter. That's the date, that's the time. It's a modify, it's a link file. So that's the source, it's a link file. and the source type is Windows shortcut, so a little bit more of information. And the actual time is the content modification time. So in the link file there'll be a number of times, usually 3 times associated with each device, and the file that you're linking to, in this case donaldduck.gif, it'll show you the time that it's last changed, which is 19:05:49. Okay. Now you need to be a little bit careful with time zone, because that could actually be different. But anyway, that's your. You can move along a little bit and see a bit more. Okay, so most of that is okay. So I'm going to go back to the beginning here. Okay, so there's a last access time for that file, which is 1909. So it was modified here. Now remember, this is the link file describing this. So this is the last access. This particular file here has a modification time of this. This is the access time of this file, and then there's the access and the birth. So this is interesting. It looks like the file was created at 1909. Okay, so this is the creation time and the last access time of this file. So it looks like it's being created after it was born. Now that can actually happen if a file is copied. The modified time stays as the original and is copied somewhere else, so it is now created, even though it was last modified before it was created. Okay, so that looks like this file was copied, and in fact, because this file also existed in the downloads directory, it looks like it was copied from there. Okay, so you just check the file in the downloads directory. If that's got a last modified time of this, then almost certainly it was copied from there. Okay, we have this is the log, a log file. Okay, so, and it's a system creation time. So I'm now 100%. Oh yeah, this is duck.link. So this is I'm not 100% certain what the origin of that is. Okay, so it is this file. It's recent duck.link, and it seems to have been created. It was created on 1722. This would indicate that the first time that file was accessed was 1722, because the file duck.link was created at this time. Okay, then we have the actual file itself was modified, so it was created at this time. It was modified at this time. This is the link file. So if it was modified at this time, it normally indicates that that file was last accessed using Explorer at this time. Okay, so the link file was updated, and then there was a change, which is a little bit later, which means the metadata modification time changed, and then the last access time was a little bit after that. Okay, last access time can't really be trusted as being the last access time. Because the rules regarding how that's changed have changed. How the last access time changes. It used to be that every time you access a file, this time is updated, but that's no longer true. Anyway, you can see you get a lot of information from this. We're going to show what you can do with that later on. So that was using plaso to access one file, but you can use it to access. I could just point it at the link directory, and it'll process everything in that subdirectory. I can just use it on another. Let's try another single file, and instead of this, let's go psteel minus source and test. I think was it 01 was the text file. So there's just a single text file in there. Okay. And By hitting tab, I expand that again. I want minus O L2T CSV, comma separated values. Actually, if you're interested, you can just type list and it'll tell you what type of values this can be. So your output can be L2T CSV, and it explains more. You can output in Excel format, Elastic, and so on. So, but I want L2T CSV minus O, let's just say temp.csv, and yeah, okay, so let's do that. Okay, and it just processes. Oops, it didn't. Unsupported format, temp. Oh, sorry, instead of minus O, it should have been minus W. And it works away. And then if I do less minus S temp, temp.csv, it just shows me again. Sorry, something went wrong there. Less should be capital S. Otherwise, it folds the lines. So here I'm seeing the lines now. They're going way off, but at least they're not folded, which makes them completely illegible, at least in my view. So, and you can see for a file, there are 3 entries. There's the modify time, there's the change time, and there's the access time. Now you might wonder why there's no birth time. Well, the reason for that is this is on a Linux file system, and Linux doesn't normally provide, doesn't provide a birth time. So you'll only get a birth time if it's on a Microsoft, say the NTFS file system. So that's that. Okay, so as I said, because Plaso has parsers for so many artifacts, you can use it to help you learn about it, and you don't have to remember the latest detail about the latest artifacts. You can find them and you can see based on the time whether they're interesting, and then you can look up the detail.